got more murders than you got squabbles in the hood. Homies, yeah, those than you got squabbles in the set on the hood.
Oh, SpongeBob, why? Oh, SpongeBob, why? Oh, SpongeBob, why? Oh, SpongeBob.
Are you actually acting like I have some kind of disrespect for your mom when
Respectful as I paid for the
first funeral as soon as it happened just because?
Adam22 is a cautionary tale of what can happen to you when you lose your soul to this content. You lose your soul to this money, and you just start hunting for the next viral clip, the next little piece of attention that you can turn into a couple dollars. And sadly, all this is only feeding more and more into the negative opinions that the public have of him. It's a little bit sad to watch his de-evolution just because he was kind of like an underground champion. Somebody on another coast that didn't necessarily look like me, but did a lot of big things, big interviews, and had a solid place in the culture at one point. Like, he had the X interview, for me specifically, the Currency interview, and then whatever else you might have held on to. Maybe you like Black Boy JB or something. But nowadays, he's looking more and more like a crack addict for likes and views. If you were watching early on, you kind of got the idea that the intentions were deeply musical. Of course, he had a couple of deviant behaviors back then too, but you could tell he was just like a young 20-something-year-old guy, and he was just living life. For the most part, it was about the music, and a little bit of BMX. Nowadays, that is not what it's about. Or at least, that's not what it looks like to me. What it looks like is saying, doing, and being the most out there, most controversial, dramatic personality that you can be in order to get people to watch the videos. In my opinion, I think there's three main things that probably contributed to why he's not where he could or where he should be as a podcaster, interviewer, music executive, or whatever else. One, he's too horny, insanely horny. Two, he has a deep desire for attention, drama, likes, and clicks. And three, he's white in hip-hop and he doesn't know how to actually move around. He moves around sort of like an outsider, when most people, after participating for this long, would have joined the culture. Let's talk about it. Okay, this guy right here is insanely, devilishly, uncontrollably horny. And you start to see pieces if you watch the early YouTube videos, you know, I had a threesome, or all the thumbnails that were just super sexual. But I personally never could tell how bad it was gonna get, because that was just what YouTube was. It just looked like a regular 20-something-year-old man living his life. Little did we know how deep it would go. Pause. The main thing that I tell all men that I work with that I want to see do good is the hornier you are, the worse your life will be. Because the more and more encounters you have with women, then the more likely you are to meet the wrong one. And everything goes downhill from there. Whether that's physically, spiritually, mentally, financially, or legally. And it seems like he's experiencing at least a little bit of everything, because he's definitely got a couple cases that I'm not really gonna delve into. But that also stems from just being way too horny.
If he's the top G, I want to be the bottom G. So I do want to extend an invite that if you were ever interested in doing your first ever double pen scene, that me and Lena, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like
his public image is on a downturn. He's falling out with what we believe to be his friends on a weekly basis at this point. So maybe they're not his friends, I don't know. I guess right now, financially, it's probably the only thing that may be going for him. It looks like he's making enough money off the horniness to make it all make sense. But he's gone from sporadic lifestyle sexual content to now he has a podcast where he just has sex on the podcast, and that's the whole show. Not that I've watched it, I've just heard about it. And if that wasn't crazy enough, he now has a show in its second season where he enlists men to have sex with his wife, the mother of his child, in the second season. So that means somebody has already won and done it.
Your wife,
and then
your wife?
My wife. And then I come up behind her and I go into her butthole. So I'm gonna feel your dick through the flap of skin between the vagina and the anus. Like, I'm gonna feel.
Oh my God. And it's funny enough that he's in hip hop, because you would think that the culture that has lyrics and music videos that have so much misogyny and, you know, things like that in it would accept this type of behavior open-heartedly. But the answer to that is no. Strangely enough, hip-hop is a lot more spiritual than you would imagine, especially when it comes to like wives and the family unit and things like that. Honestly, the spirituality of hip-hop was a major point that y'all were trying to fight me on in the last video. But yeah, it's not flying, and it's making him look a little bit worse in the culture. If it was just his private life, I don't think anybody would really care. But the fact that he's so loud about it consistently and is trying to sell it at every avenue makes people think, why? What's going on? And that leads us into the second point. He has a strange addiction to attention and money. I really want to know what happened first. Was it that the views started to decline and then he needed a way out and started all this, or what was it? I mean, as you can see, this is all opinion, and maybe it's just me, but I haven't seen his platform in public conversation for anything musical in several years. It's either somebody gets slapped up there, somebody gets beat up, somebody gets shot, somebody's on drugs. There's not anything groundbreaking being done up there as it relates to music. It just looks like only the negative parts of the culture. Niggas is gangbanging in the podcast studio. 2 different kinds of gangbanging too. But while I'm here talking about him, let me at least give a little credit. That New York branch of No Jumper was very good. They were early on Ice Spice, early on the Sugar Hill guys, and it was real deep entrenched in the culture over there. But with that dying down, I think that was pretty much the end of the major things musical at No Jumper. Now everything is culture, which may just be where they want to go with it. That's fine. But the methodology in which they go about it, or at least how it looks to the outside, everything is looking crazy. They got Adam talking crazy to gang members for 3 hours a day, every day. And, you know, one, inciting gang violence and then hiding his hand.
Hey, I'm scared.
Stop speaking me, gang, before I do that to you, babe.
2, he hides behind the fact that he's white and nobody will touch him to say and do the most outrageous things.
You kind of have bad bitch energy.
And at times, I like to blame the people that are around him who enable him to do these type of things. But when you really think about it, he holds a weird kind of power imbalance with the people that work for him. And he kind of uses their credibility to bolster his own, which would be just fine if he wasn't talking crazy at every opportunity. But since he is, and since he does so much strange stuff that the people around actually vocalize at times that they don't agree with, you start to develop the idea that they're just around for the check, and when that's gone, they're gone. Which, you know, makes sense because it is just a job. Maybe I'm just looking too deep into it, thinking it should be a passion type of situation. It's not always the case. But back to the attention seeking. What's number 3? The people he sheds a light on and the way that he does it just scream, I'm only in it for the money on. Interviewing Pop Smoke's killer for what? For why? That's not hip hop. That's literally just violence. A lot of the time, at least to me, he's just platforming people that have questionable charges or anything that will, you know, look like a great headline. People that just commit violence or crimes or whatever else just to say he did it. He's the modern day Shock Jock, doing, saying, posting outrageous things in order to get the attention, but not going too far as to alienate the entire base. Because this is the only point that I can see to you. You can make the point that all he's doing is highlighting the culture, and that's not the point that we have to get into. Either he's not aware or he just doesn't care what the optics are like for a person like him to be only highlighting the negatives of mostly Black and Latino cultures. But let's just do point number 4 before we get over there. He has a habit of bringing people on when they're under the influence of major drugs. This is something that I personally don't really fuck with at all. But this is also just a personal point. You don't have to live by this. It may just be journalistic to you that, you know, you get them as raw, as real as they are. But I don't think there's anything to learn from somebody when they can't speak. It's strange. It's strange behavior. And it's obviously just done. And I think he actually said it himself that it's a viral clip, so he'll keep it. He'll run the interview. Doesn't matter if, you know, Boom Gang can't stay awake or whoever else is doing whippets or throwing up on set. It's fine. But that's also a major idea that I talked about before in that video. Some people wanted more than you. Some people will do whatever it takes for that viral clip, and that's just not me. Are you a bad person if that's you? No. I'm just not gonna do it myself. There's a place for that type of thing in the world. I'm just not a fan of it. So even though I'm knocking it, you can do whatever you want. My opinion does not and should not mean that much to anybody. Your life should still keep going. And now we're on to the final point. One that kind of combines everything that we've already talked about. As a white man from New Hampshire that has supposed to have been in hip hop for so long, he is still terribly unaware of what his position looks like, what his actions look like, and what he does and how that affects him and the culture.
What I'm getting at is sometimes that trolling can come off as y'all trying to whoop the culture, and you just sit here like you just sucking Adam for the money. You catch my drift?
Nah, pause.
We can't pause on that because that's what it's seeming like, Remo.
I'm never one of those guys that's like, yeah, you're white, you can't participate in hip hop, you're not of this culture, blah, blah, blah. But you would think that somebody that's been in and around hip hop for so long would understand at least some of this, like would understand that all that sexual deviant stuff doesn't really fly as well as you think it would in hip hop, or just chasing clout in, you know, who you platforming and why you do it and when you do it. And when you consistently treat instigating beef and violence like a game, none of this is gonna fly well. Not for a black person, definitely not for a white person. It looks even crazier for you. If you are coming from somewhere non-standard to the culture that developed hip-hop, you have to approach it with at least a little bit of sense. And I think now I'm finally putting the pieces together. Those willing to learn and appreciate it are those that don't get hit with the culture vulture allegations. I want everybody to make $1, but if you don't really love this, go dropship or something. There's easier ways to make a buck than trying to squeeze some money out of something that you don't really care about, especially if it's somebody else's art and culture. I'm gonna assume though that he still loves it, because even though he's a little misguided, in my opinion, I still see it. And so I'm rooting for him to hopefully 1, be less horny, 2, stop chasing attention, clicks, and likes, and 3, find a place to belong, do some good, be more like Nardwar or the Mac Miller of the underground. Do something positive. But that's just my opinion. None of this is up to me. Man can only hope. But that's enough of what I think. What do you think?